Now a gentleman who has risked his life dozens of times and collected more cracked bones and ribs than a hospital ward full of patients. Some of those injuries came from his most spectacular stunts, trying to jump over the fountains at Caesar's Palace, 13 buses at Wembley Stadium in London, trying to leap the Snake River Canyon in Idaho. Would you please welcome my first guest tonight, America's foremost daredevil, in fact, the world's foremost daredevil, Mr. Evel Knievel. Evel? When you called me on Saturday, you expressed a concern over the attitude that's being displayed on television now about the performance of stunts. An attitude which almost accepts the fact that people are going to be very badly hurt from some of these things and may encourage other people to try them who are not qualified to so do.
That's right. I was asked to do 2 other shows and also to write an essay on the subject. I know that you have some fatherly concern in a way that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I have had a lot of flack from people and also been asked by a lot of people to speak out on it, and I thought that since I was here in New York on business, that if you and I could get together and do something on it would be a good contribution to make. And I feel very strongly about the fact that the television networks in general have lost touch with all morality and all sense of responsibility to the public concerning what they are doing to entice or induce young men into straddling a motorcycle, which is really a steel spear, and hurtling it through the air a great distance in a competitive manner, where on the other end of the ramp they can only receive bodily injury that has resulted in 3 deaths, 3 boys becoming paraplegics, 1 becoming mentally unbalanced, and another boy out in Las Vegas just 3 or 4 weeks ago who was nearly killed.
All right, let's start with that one. We're talking now about a gentleman named Gary Wells, I believe is his name. He attempted to do something which you performed some years ago at Caesar's Palace, jumping a bike over the fountains.
Yes, and they have a show out now called That's Incredible that they show different things on that they seem to think are incredible, that I myself did nearly every stunt they've ever had on that show. I did it 13 or 14 years ago. But the point is that in this country, I think the best example I could give you is we had 2 great, big, huge prize fighters at Caesar's Palace 2 weeks later, Muhammad Ali and Larry Holmes, wearing thick boxing gloves, fighting. Now, our society says that if either one of those big 220-pound men looks like he has a bloody nose or a bruised eye or cannot continue, that the fight is stopped, right? Now, we also have a law in this country that says that dog fights are not allowed. And we also have a law in this country that says that cockfights are no longer allowed. I would like to know what right any television producer, sports producer or special program producer has in this country, what moral right he thinks that he has as a human being or an inhuman human being to entice or induce a young man because he rides a motorcycle to lose his life when we have laws to protect other people and other things like I just talked about.
All right, but let me just try this on you. Why was it all right for you to appear on a national television hookup attempting to jump the Snake River Canyon?
I did not compete against anyone. I'm a performer. I was not being enticed or induced or offered money to jump against someone to see who could jump the furthest and see who could lose his life the quickest. And I'm saying it's wrong. And if you don't agree with me, you're wrong.
No, I'm just wondering, I didn't get to finish the question. What was the deal? You've already answered it. You performed that stunt for money.
But I'm a performer. My son performs with me. But as a father, I feel I have a parental responsibility to see that my son performs and performs so that he's not hurt. And I feel that we have a message to deliver to young people of this country that this is a performance that we're doing. We're not out trying to see how far we can jump before we break our back or our neck or kill ourselves. I don't want your children to do it, Tom, and I don't want them to think that I'm telling them to. I don't want anyone's child to do it. I retired in 1976, and I didn't want to continue. But my son, my youngest son, Robbie, he wants to do this. So I thought the least I could do was set up the ramps, perform with him somewhat, and try and offer him some advice, and most of all, keep my son from being used by these flesh users that are in this network television business, and I think that's what they are. And if they don't like it, they can go lump it, because that's the way I feel about it.
Well, I might say that there was an article in, I think, not the most recent issue of TV Guide, but the one before, by an associate producer for this network's program, Games People Play, in which he expressed shock at the dangerous attempts that people were being asked to make when these things had not been checked out.
For a lousy $2,500 or $5,000. Do you know that I performed in Wembley Stadium in London, England? I drew 108,000 people and made $1,008,000 cash in one day. Do you know that they were paying these kids $2,500 to go out and risk their lives and do these things? And do you know that the hospital bill alone that Gary Wells has got at Caesar's Palace from the jump that he made out there, I understand, exceeds $65,000? Now, I think that the greatest compliment a young man could ever pay me is to want to dress up and do what I did and be like I was or like I am. And I take that as a compliment. But you have to draw the line somewhere and say to yourself, I'm not ashamed I'm a daredevil. I am. But for Christ's sake, let's set some rules and some guidelines. Let's let our society make some judgments about the motorcycle jumpers just like they did about the boxers and the dogs and so on and so forth. I spent $7,000 in Seattle, Washington last year trying to bring an injunction and stop a jump contest between Gary Wells and Dale Buggins from Australia. The judge said, nobody's going to get hurt. This Knievel doesn't know what he's talking about, so I'm not going to stop it. It cost me $7,000 to try and stop it, and they offered me $25,000 just to announce it. I wouldn't accept the blood money. I wouldn't be a part of it. And I'm asking every parent that has any responsibility that's watching this show, and anybody that's connected with television, if you think that the show Network was a show that made you think about what people in television might do for money, you really don't know the whole truth. It's a lot worse than what the network show was.
Yeah, that's a strong allegation, and I want to ask you something about that, but I have to do a commercial here first. We'll continue from New York with Evel Knievel right after these announcements. Be back in about 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Back now with Evel Knievel, this producer for Games People Play, excuse me, who wrote the article in TV Guide. So the thing that frightened him the most was that the mail from the audience was running favorably.
Yes.
For Games People Play, that's incredible. Other shows where there are challenges and stunts.
It goes back to the old cliche, the Christians and the lions. I mean, our society seems to want to see that kind of a thing until they are horrified by something that happens and they don't want to see.
You know something, it really comes back to the producers and the promoters and the entrepreneurs to have some kind of honesty and some kind of morality. It really doesn't depend upon the audience, it depends upon the producers of those programs. Remember the guy who wanted to put a man in a cage with a shark and put it on television? Yes. You know, that man should be stopped. That shouldn't be offered to an audience.
And I'm not blaming the television networks in their entirety. They put faith in the producer who's producing the show. I'm saying what we need is a guideline to go by to where a man who is the head of a network can say, if this is going to happen, we're not going to show it to the public. And incidentally, ABC did do that on That's Incredible show when Gary was hurt so bad. They didn't show it. And I would like to say something concerning that particular jump. That young man, Gary Wells, just like my own son, is a much better motorcycle jumper than I am, probably than I ever was. But I think that these young fellows going out to try and prove it, it's already been done, and why risk your life to gain the fame of the world? It's just not worth it.
If you do 16 buses, why do you have to do 17 or 18 or 19? And the logical answer is, well, not because they're there. You don't have to do that.
No, you don't have to do it.
Now, can we take a look at some of the... Is stunts the right word?
No, I've never been a stuntman. I've always been a daredevil.
All right, some of the... Well, now, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Some of the jumps that I've attempted.
All right, fine. We've got some videotape that Evel brought over from ABC, and they'll be popping up on this monitor right here.
And I have spent nearly 4 years in the hospital from some of these accidents.
All right, here's the first one.
This was in San Francisco at the Cow Palace, and I went over the handlebars and right out the back door and hit the wall. And this is at Caesar's Palace, where I landed in the middle of the ramp, but when I went over the handlebars, I broke both of my hips and my pelvis. And if I hadn't had that helmet on, I'd have torn my head completely off. I had a terrible brain concussion, and the motorcycle hit the wall that separates the dunes from Caesar's Palace, split my clothing wide open, and caught on fire, and I was very lucky I wasn't killed. This jump is in London, England. It was over 13 buses, and it was one of the most horrifying experiences I had. I tried my best to hang on, and that motorcycle got on top of me and just ate me alive.
Ooh.
But this is at Kings Island in Ohio. I said 13's unlucky, I'm going to try 14, and I made 14, and that's the last one that I made.
Where have you been? I haven't seen you on television doing anything for the last 4 years.
Well, this is a tough business. In 1976, I tried to jump some sharks in Chicago, and I broke both of my arms. I missed that jump. I quit for a while, for a couple of years, and I've gone back to work with my son. We've been to Australia and to Puerto Rico, and Tom, when I say it's a tough business, unless I go and get on a motorcycle and bust my ass, or unless I take a ball bat or a gun and bust somebody else's, you don't hear anything about me, so it's a pretty tough business. But I have been performing quite a bit, but I haven't been hurt. In fact, I'll be in Mexico City next week for a performance.
The last thing I heard you were going to try was out of an airplane at 40,000 feet. There was an article in one of the news magazines about a year ago that you were going to try that.
I had worked for 5 years on a stunt to jump from an airliner at 40,000 feet without a parachute into one of 13 haystacks into a gambling casino parking lot in Las Vegas. The FAA had quite a bit to say about that, but at the time that I said I was going to do that, at the time I said I was going to do it, I was drinking a lot of bourbon they call Wild Turkey, and I thought I could fly. And I had a bad case of hay fever, and I figure if I miss the haystack, I'll cure the hay fever. So, but since then I quit drinking and sobered up, and I don't think I want to try that still.
I was going to say, if you tried that, they would be writing about you in the papers the next day on the obituary page. That's a tough one to do. I've got commercials waiting. We'll be back with Evel Knievel and tell you about the rest of this week right after these announcements, so stay with us. Some years ago, I wanted you to come on and explain what happened during what I will refer to as the incident. Now, you know what I'm talking about with the baseball bat.
Yes.
Did you go out of your mind there?
No, I didn't. I have some very strong moral convictions that I have to live by, and I'm not saying that I'm right. I could be wrong. However, for 15 years, I've risked my life in this country jumping a motorcycle and being a performer. I wore a red, white, and blue uniform, and before every show, I did what I call a battle against the use of narcotics to the young people in this country. I think that any man who peddles heroin, he can do it once if he's caught, but the second time he's caught, I think he should be put to death.
That's pretty strong moral code.
Secondly, I spoke to all your children against the use of narcotics, about what it could do to them, and against abusing themselves with alcohol. I had a man who worked for me for a number of years, who became a trusted and loyal and loved friend. That man wrote a book about me and said that I was a user of narcotics, said that I hated my mother, and at the end of the book called me a son of a bitch. Now, if I did not think there was a much stronger judge someday that I will stand before called God than the judge I stood before in that courtroom in Santa Monica, California, I would have killed that lousy little bastard. I broke his arms with a baseball bat, and I think that's just what he deserved. I'll guarantee you one thing. He doesn't write anything else about me.
But if you believe in the Constitution of the United States of America, and if you believe in all the principles of our country...
It says if you feel tread upon or oppressed, you have the right, no, not the right, but the obligation to revolt, and I did.
No, redress of grievances.
Whatever.
Well, do you think hitting...
You justify it your way, I justified it my way. God created all men, and baseball bats and Winchester made them all equal, and that's just the way I look.
Well, but I mean, you really can't believe what you're saying, that if somebody were to write something about them, you have the right to go after him with a baseball bat?
I think I did him a favor by going after him with a baseball bat.
Well, what about suing him for libel or for slander in a court of law and extracting a monetary damage from this man? I mean, Evel, if we were
I'll tell you how that works. I'll tell you how that works.
Can I just finish this one thing?
Okay.
Please.
Since it's your show, I'm going to let you go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. I mean, if everybody in this country who felt slighted or wronged for some reason decided to go after the perpetrator with a baseball bat, we'd be in a hell of a fix here. People would be out with baseball bats every day.
There may be some people that should probably be out with baseball bats. It might straighten a lot of things out better than it does in a court of law today, and I'll give you an example of that. I fired a lawyer in that courtroom in Los Angeles and went to jail for 5 months and 22 days because I wanted to plead guilty. This lawyer, because of our system, even though I knew I hit the man with the baseball bat and that I was guilty, said that I could stand up, raise my right hand, and say, I swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. And then he said, now, because I'm your lawyer and you live in the United States, even though you took an oath to God, you can say not guilty. I don't think that way. I took an oath to God, I was guilty. I hit the guy, and that's all there was to it, and I went to jail. And I would do it again.
Yeah, but if you're a man who believes in the Lord,
And
where it
I
says
do.
turn the other cheek, that's out the window when the guy writes this about you in the
I
book?
also believe an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
You really believe that?
Yes,
You're
I
really
do.
that tough? There are no mitigations, no room for error in that?
There might be, but at the time, because of the 15 years and the 4 years in hospitals and the belief I had and what I'd spoken out against and the truth and the confidence and the faith I'd put in this man for what he did to me, I felt that I let him off easy.
Did the book really sell that many copies, that a lot of people read it?
No, but that didn't make any difference to me. It was a personal thing. And unless it's done to you, you could never understand it, Tom.
I'll grant you that. But I'm one of those people who believe that baseball bats ought to be used in baseball parks against pitchers when they throw the ball. I'm not
Well,
one of those who believe in hitting
Maybe
people
not,
with
but if a
baseball
guy
bats.
walks up and punches you, you might
Oh,
think
then I'd
he's
think it-
serious, okay?
Then I'd take it
I'm going to tell you
serious.
something. If he hits you with a ball bat, you're going to know he's serious.
Except that it just seems to me to be a little extreme. You know, you don't mind my saying that. That seems to me to be extreme.
Well, I'm Evel Knievel, and I guess in some cases I am a little extreme.
How did you get so angry?
I just did. I just did, and I wish it hadn't happened. But it happened, and I've got to live with it for the rest of my life, and I will.
Okay. Anyway, thank you for calling me this weekend, and I hope that you've expressed the message loudly and clearly about the most important purpose of your visit here tonight, these unnecessary blood stunts on television for profit in the name of
I
competition.
think we need some writing of letters to our congressmen and our senators, and I think that we need some help from the networks to draw a line of morality concerning misusing the lives of young men when it comes to the point to where they could become crippled or killed.
And if anybody asks me what I think of Evel Knievel, he's the greatest.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Evel. Good night. Thanks for being here. We will continue with David Fry right after these announcements. Baseball bats. Wow. That doesn't mess around. Ooh.